Welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and I'm the Shepherd of Black Sheep. Today, I'm going to go over how social media are steroids for narcissism. And in the thumbnail, you can see my friends Ty Lopez and Sadia Khan, who are not my friends. And Ty Lopez, for those who don't know, he just got caught up in some scam where he was scamming people. He took $16 million in profit. He was lying about the profit one of his businesses was making. And honestly, this stuff was not even possible without social media. And we all know what Sadia Khan has done recently as well, lying about her credentials, lying about all sorts of things. And she's just been absurd, honestly. But she wouldn't be able to do what she does either without social media. Now, what do I think about it? I don't think social media can create narcissists, but I do think this. I do think it can make people who are already narcissists worse because it rewards and encourages all of their worst impulses. For example, narcissists have an excessive need for admiration. Well, now social media is a stage where they can blast off whatever they want. They can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, and it doesn't even matter if they're truthful. It doesn't even matter if they have any honor or integrity. It doesn't matter. They get rewarded for whatever. And what is the reward? Attention, admiration, sometimes money, sometimes status. But that's the incentive structure that we have right now. Doesn't matter really if you have integrity. It doesn't matter the character you have. It doesn't even matter if you're honest. But this is what can happen here. And social media encourages all of this to occur. Hi there, Ellie. And so also what happens with it is narcissists have the A's: attention, admiration, and acknowledgement. They can get all of that from social media. Also, they can enjoy narcissistic supply from all sorts of sources, right? So getting the status from all of the clicks and the views, what is that? That's narcissistic supply right there. So I think what it can do is make someone who is already a narcissist, it can make them worse, and it can feed their grandiosity. Of course, Ellie, I'm always happy to help. And so when their grandiosity is fed, they are not being helped in any way. If anything, it's going to make them worse. It's going to further inflate their grandiose self. And when their grandiose self is inflated, you can only expect them to get worse, honestly. You get worse, honestly. And that's what we see right now. We see people like Sadia Khan. We see people like Ty Lopez. We see people like Meghan Markle. We see people like many others. They're not getting better. They're only getting worse. Hi there, Angela. How are you? I had a little bit of a hiatus here for the last 5 or 6 days. Got caught up with some things, but I'm back again. But what else does social media do for narcissists? Well, they can help them get status. It can help them if they want to cheat. Social media is great for a narcissist that wants to cheat. And granted, people who are going to cheat regardless. I see people post things like, oh, you know you're not an adult if you still have Snapchat. Snapchat's for kids. And I would say it doesn't matter if you have Snapchat. It doesn't matter if you have other social media. If you're going to cheat, you're going to cheat. All those platforms do is it facilitates the process. It's going to make it easier for people to cheat who already want to cheat. The exception to that would be dating apps. If you're in a relationship, you shouldn't be on dating apps. But dating apps is just another example of how social media has made it easier for people to be more narcissistic and to just dive into their worst impulses. If a narcissistic person wants to cheat, but just jump on Tinder, jump on Bumble, jump on Hinge, jump on Match. It's all right there. And they can do that if they wanted to. So it's just another example of they want to use people as a source of supply. They want to use and exploit them. Social media and dating apps makes it much more easy for them to do so. What else does social media do for them? Well, it can be a career for some people even now too, especially people who are more attractive, more of the somatic narcissist types. You can post all sorts of selfies as a woman. And honestly, on Instagram, for example, and TikTok to an extent, that's all it takes. The face card, as the kids would say. But if you're attractive and you're a younger woman on Instagram or TikTok, you can partially blow up just from being attractive. They don't have to cultivate anything else about themselves. That's all it takes. You can just be attractive, and that's it. On TikTok, you got to have a little bit of personality sometimes with TikTok too, right? It's not good enough just to look good. You have to look good and be a good dancer or show some sort of personality. And the combination can really help them to get famous. So, and what's the other problem with social media here? The other problem with social media is the disconnection it promotes in everyone's actual life. Because when people are connected to the screen, what are they not connected to? They're not connected to the people in their life. They're not connected to the people that they see on a day to day basis. They are disconnected from them. So social media, in an ironic way, it helps people get connected with people all over the world, while at the same time prompting more disconnection in their own life. And I absolutely think that contributes to people just feeling more isolated and alone. It contributes to people not having as much of a sense of community anymore in real life. And I think it contributes to mental health issues. It contributes to anxiety. It contributes to depression. It contributes to all sorts of things. So, social media, again, you wouldn't be listening to me right now if it were not for social media. But that being said, there's definitely some good elements and some not so good elements of this. Let's see. Global, how are you? Katie says, my ex would post a lot of shower selfies, and he was a hot younger guy, also a diagnosed narcissist. He lived for his IG page and interaction with all the women on it. I caught him on late. Social media is not homogeneous. Correct. And so basically, someone who's attractive, if they want to get all sorts of supply from Instagram or TikTok or whatever, then yeah, they can get it. And this is going to be a tool that they can use to get those things. And this is when you'll see people say, oh, you're just insecure if you don't like them doing that. And that's where I would say it comes down to respect. If someone respects their relationship, they're not going to do things that put that relationship in harm's way. It's either you care about your partner's feelings or you care more about getting the supply from other people. Which one is it? Because if you care more about your partner, your actions are going to show that. And your actions are going to show that's your priority. If your priority is narcissistic supply from other sources, then that's what you're going to see. You're going to see them continue to do whatever they want. And if you ever say something about it, they'll say, you're just jealous. You're just insecure. You're being childish. And they'll just dismiss your concerns, maybe say you're crazy or something along those lines. And all of that. And that's the other thing. Narcissists, they can create an image for themselves online, right? So especially with social media, you can start a YouTube page, you can start an Instagram page, and you can basically start a persona from scratch. You can create an image from scratch. Doesn't matter how true it is, doesn't matter if it's based in reality or not. All that matters is people believe that it's true. And that's where social media has gave a breeding ground to all of these grifters like Tai Lopez, grifters like Sadia Khan. They can create this image for themselves and they can fabricate it out of thin air. Sadia Khan says, oh, I'm a psychologist. No, doesn't matter if she's not a psychologist. She'll say she's a psychologist. And unfortunately, all these other platforms, they're not going to do their due diligence. And they're going to say, oh, sure, Sadia Khan's a psychologist. Sadia Khan's a relationship expert. Let's have her on the show as an expert. Whether you're Jay Shetty, Soft White Underbelly, Chris Williamson, what's her name? Mel Robbins. And there's others. Tom Bilyeu, his wife. They all enabled this to happen as well. But she created this image out of nothingness. It was not a real thing. And that's another reason why social media is steroids for narcissism. What is narcissist? The myth? Falling in love with their image, what's being reflected back to them. And social media creates a stage for people to fall in love with an image that somebody creates. And the narcissist, they fall in love with it too, because it's not their real self. It's something they're fabricating. And that fabricated image is what's getting admiration. The fabricated image is what's getting the ego fueling. Not the real self there, not the person who they really are. It's the fabrication that's getting rewarded. Just another example of social media contributing to that. Global says, my AI girlfriend found out AI boyfriend and left me. That's going to cause a whole nother bag of worms down the line, that's for sure. Angela says, if you're only going to talk to people for their physical appearances, then you deserve to meet narcissists. Huh? I mean, looks it matters, but it's not the only thing, right? Character over chemistry, they say. Hello there, Jolly. And Katie says, he did call me insecure. How did I know? I told him it was about respect exactly. That ended the relationship. He refused to stop. See, there you go, Katie. His actions demonstrated loud and clear what his priorities were. Because that's the thing. If you really care about your partner, you're not going to put the randoms and their attention over what your partner thinks. If you do, regardless of what they say, they're just not caring about their partner in that case. They're putting whatever else it is over their partner. They can say whatever they want, but that's exactly what's going on. Power and control is the reason, same as in society. Micro is the macro. Yes, the macro reflects the micro, right? And if there's more and more people that are narcissistic on the micro level, how can we be surprised if there's more on the macro level? I mean, it should really be a one-to-one, honestly, because the macro is made up of the micro. And yeah, and I guess there could be a phenomenon where a group could be more narcissistic than each individual within the group, but combined, they can act even more narcissistic. I think that definitely happens, especially when people maybe are in a cult or they are subscribed to some kind of ideology or some distorted version of reality. Yeah, that happens a lot. Then you'll see the gaslighting. Then you'll see people gang up on others as flying monkeys, and it can be a fiasco. Ellie says, my narc AI boyfriend fell in love with his algorithm. Ooh. Angela says, when you are a loyal person, you aren't going to cheat anybody on social media or in real life. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. Also, I need to put this on Instagram that I'm even here. I'm trying to post more to the other platforms that I'm going live just to get to build the following here. But also to note, so I don't think social media can create a personality disorder, but it does make it worse in the people that already have it. And someone that may be on the borderline, a mediocre case, maybe now they become a severe case because of social media. And then what about for everybody else? What about the average person? Well, it's not going to give them NPD, but if it's going to reward narcissistic behaviors, it's going to reward, and we should go over what are narcissistic behaviors. I would say things that are extremely attention seeking. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Anything to get attention, admiration, and acknowledgement. Narcissistic supply. Absolutely a narcissistic behavior there. Does it make somebody a full-blown narcissist? No, but it's a narcissistic behavior. I wouldn't necessarily even call that a narcissistic trait. It can become, or excuse me, a personality trait is something that's in you inherently. It's either you don't have that or you do. But the behaviors, then that can become a pattern, and you can be something that looks very similar to that. And then there's probably the narcissistic fleas version of things here too. So narcissistic fleas, for those who don't know, if you've been around a narcissistic person, maybe you've had narcissistic parents, you can develop narcissistic fleas. That's when you don't become a full-blown narcissist, but you begin to act a little bit like a narcissist. This happens because, one, it's a trauma response. If you had a narcissistic parent, many people that had a narcissistic parent, they develop CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I definitely think narcissistic fleas can be a symptom of that. And also, we just become like the people we surround ourselves with. That's just, it is what it is. And that's why they say you become the average of the 4 people you spend the most time with. That's why they say that. So narcissistic fleas is something that can happen. And someone that is getting rewarded for their narcissistic behaviors, I think social media can give them a version of narcissistic fleas, if that makes sense. So they'll start acting more narcissistically. Maybe they'll do more things for attention because if they have a social media business, what are you doing? You're posting content all the time. And then you're getting likes, you're getting shares, you're getting comments. And what does that do? It doesn't not fuel your ego. I'll put it like that. Like as someone who does this, it doesn't not fuel your ego. It it can only fuel it, if you ask me. Now, you might get desensitized to its effects over time, and you need more and more of a hit to have the same effect. That's true too, I think. But when you get in front of an online audience, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, it's gonna bloat your sense of self a little bit. I just don't even think if it's possible not to. I think people are going to be human and they're going to be impacted by that a little bit. And that's something I think I'm going to talk about with Christian. I'm talking to Christian again on Friday, by the way. People like that first interview I had with him. And we're going to talk again. We're going to talk a little bit about the social media influencer slash audience relationship. I think that will be interesting. I'm sure we'll go over more into the PTSD stuff too. We might talk more about current events and politics. That might be controversial. I'm not sure. And I have some more news for you all too. And this is something I'm going to tell you all. Jared, that was a joke, actually. Okay. It was hard to tell, Ellie. I'm sorry. Kat, welcome to the chat, Kat. Glad to have you here. Katie says, do you think social media draws in narcissists slash heavy amount of social media are narcissists? Yes, I think it draws them like a moth to the light. I think it's just a great way to get supply. And it's easier than the way they would do it in their real life. I think social media can facilitate almost any way they want narcissistic supply. Social media makes it easier. If they want to cheat, social media makes it easier. You get some status online, now it's even easier to cheat. And then you also get attention and you get to feel powerful and superior by doing that. So, I mean, show me a narcissist that isn't on social media all the time. I'll wait. I mean, perhaps an older one in an older generation, they probably exist, but anyone under 60 to 50? Probably not. George, welcome to the chat. What's shaking? Kat says, Narcs head straight back into social media for attention. It's why I stay away from it. I'm only on YouTube. I will say, Kat, YouTube is a different animal because it's not like social media on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. There is something a little bit different about YouTube. Everything is a little more siloed. So you can come to one community on YouTube, like my channel, and you might not interact with anyone else on YouTube. You're just here in this channel, in this ecosystem, and then that's it. But on Facebook, it all blends together. On Instagram, it all blends together. Same thing with TikTok. And that creates all sorts of other issues. 50% of Earthlings are good people. It could be. I will not confirm nor deny that, Global. Angela says, self-aware narcissists on YouTube are very respectful. They have good content and they help people to make money. That's wonderful, in my opinion. Well, I've soured on the self-aware narcissist because I don't see how they can get better by fueling their grandiose sense of self. I mean, if you're getting all sorts of attention, admiration, acknowledgement, and narcissistic supply, how is that not fueling their grandiosity? And if grandiosity is fueling narcissism, how do they then not get worse? I don't see how they couldn't. So I kind of think it's almost like enabling the people that follow them now. It's enabling them to get worse. And some people will say, well, I learned things from them that I couldn't learn from anyone else. And I would say, did you? Or is that just what they want you to think? They want you to think they're going to get insights from them. You're going to get insights from them you can't get from anywhere else. I don't know about that. I think that's like one of their manipulation tactics to appear more special, powerful, and superior. You're going to get special knowledge here. And you'll notice a lot of them do that, right? And I'm not even saying they're all wrong with what they say all the time. A lot of them share true things too, but they'll say, you'll get this special from me. You're not going to get this from anywhere else. You're going to get the inside scoop. That's part of the manipulation. Their narcissism can distort anything they say. And that's the thing I want people to really realize is if they're truly a narcissist, they're not turning that operating system off. It is on at all times. And so anything they say can and should be questioned and not be taken at face value because you never know what their narcissism could be distorting. Even for the great Sam Vaknin, that is true. Global. There are benefits to the natural organic evolution of society into a narc-friendly environment. There are benefits to the natural organic evolution into a narc-friendly environment. What do you think they are, Kat? Or Global? Kat says, Leon Walker Jr. is my favorite self-aware narcissist. I find him genuine. He's been in therapy for years and is brutally honest about his past. I don't know much about him, honestly. Self-aware narcissists on YouTube aren't abusing anybody, Jared. I don't know about that, Angela. The certain person that we talked about that I refused to mention, he's abused people online for sure. And he's sent his flying monkeys after people like Christian and others. So they're mistreating people. I learned very useful things from self-aware narcissists on YouTube. I didn't see anything wrong. Self-aware narc is the equivalent of a broken Rubik's Cube bent to that's a good analogy, Ellie. Kat says, does that also mean that no one in prison can ever truly be rehabilitated? Well, I would never say never. Because it depends on why they're there. Not everyone in prison has a full-blown personality disorder. Some of them might have gotten drunk or high and made a dumb decision. Those are the ones that are probably the most rehabilitatable. Now, the personality disorder ones, then it would depend on how severe it is. If they're a severe narcissist, severe psychopath, severe antisocial personality disorder, not looking good. Not looking good. Now, a borderline, maybe. Maybe they can improve if they admit they have an issue and then try to do something about it. But they're not going to get DBT in jail, I don't think. They're going to teach them behavior management, maybe. They're going to teach them behavior modification, but that's about it. Sadia Khan is abusive to her audience? Yes. Exactly right, Kat. That's why she's in the thumbnail. I learned very useful things from self-aware narcissists on YouTube. I didn't see anything wrong. I'm not saying they're all wrong about everything, Angela. I'm not saying that. I do agree. I've learned from Sam Vaknin. I've even learned from HG Tudor. Ironically, HG Tudor is probably my favorite one. He's my favorite self-aware narcissist psychopath. And honestly, I trust him. I trust him more than all of the rest of them. Honestly. Kat says, sometimes prison makes them worse. Absolutely true. Because they're surrounded by bad influences. Absolutely true. We become like the people we surround ourselves with. So think about narcissistic fleas. And then the prison version is psychopathic fleas. Antisocial personality disorder fleas. It's not going to help. I just try to avoid all narcissists as much as possible. You can't go wrong with that, Jolly. But sometimes what happens is we kind of stumble upon them. I'm liking Sam Vaknin at the moment. Very insightful. Yeah, I mean, I like his work on autism and narcissism. He has some very interesting thoughts about that. And Kelly and I, we talked about that. Sam Vaknin thinks that some autistic people, they build a narcissistic defense because being in touch with the world as a full-blown autistic person is just too painful. It's too uncomfortable. So they build this narcissistic defense system to buffer them from the world. He says it's not quite a true narcissism. It's not a narcissistic operating system, They have an autistic operating system with a narcissistic buffer. That's the Sam Vaknin theory. I don't know if that's backed by anything or not, but that's what he thinks. That no one's perfect, but that's what they're not all bad. They're not all wrong. We can learn from any one message. Shouldn't people have a good overall character to be worthy of platforms? Well, that's where you separate the message from the messenger again, I would say. Yes, I can see that ego can be an issue with those in the spectrum. It depends, right? Because not everyone on the spectrum is going to be exactly the same. There are severe versions of people on the spectrum and less severe versions of people on the spectrum. But back also to the regular person that is narcissistic, or excuse me, just a regular person. Social media is going to reward their narcissistic tendencies, whatever it is. So you post, now you get attention. The more attention seeking you are, the more provocative you are, the more controversial you are, the more attention you're going to get. Because the social media algorithm is just like a narcissist. The one thing it doesn't like is being ignored. Just like a narcissist, right? Narcissists like positive attention. Narcissists like negative attention. The one thing it doesn't like is being ignored. Now, there's one kind of attention a narcissist doesn't like, and I made a video about this the other day, but it's when they get negative attention in a way where they can't control the narrative anymore. Then they don't like it because now they're out of control. And when they're out of control and they can't find a way to spin it in their favor, they will not like that one bit. The examples were Sadia Khan, when Abba and Preach were talking about her. Sadia Khan did not like that one bit because she was out of control of the narrative. She wasn't in control of that, and she wasn't able to spin it because Abba and Preach are bigger than her. So she was losing out on that. Same with Goob on Instagram. Goob, she didn't like what he was saying about her because it was making her look bad, and she wasn't in control of the narrative. Now, an exception to this, other people were talking about Sadia Khan online, smaller creators they were calling around. Sadia Khan noticed, and she was able to flip it in her favor. And this is how she did. So this one person, they didn't have very many followers. Their normal content wouldn't get many views. But then when they posted about Sadia, now all of a sudden they would get 10 times the views. Sadia sees this and says, see, when you post about me, you get 10 times more views than you normally do. So she was able to spin it, even though it was negative attention, she was still able to flip it to make herself feel powerful and superior. But in other cases, when she couldn't do that with Abba and Preach and with Goob, then that was the attention she didn't like, because that attention did not add to her grandiosity, I don't think. It was too much of an ego. It was more of a narcissistic injury than fueling grandiosity. Most attention is going to fuel their grandiosity, that's for sure. Let's see. Apparently, all autistics are likely to have PTSD, so that trauma can morph into dark triad stuff. That is something I'm not so sure about, because I think the most they can get is narcissistic fleas. If you don't have that personality disorder operating system from birth, from the genetic and biological component, I don't think you can get it. Like, the most you can get is the behaviors. You can get some narcissistic fleas, or in the prison example, psychopathic fleas, but that's it. That's going to be a little bit different. And that's the CPTSD version. CPTSD version, narcissistic fleas, emotional dysregulation, anxiety, depression. But that's much different than a personality disorder. Personality disorders, all about power, control, managing their image, narcissistic supply, and avoiding accountability. That is not CPTSD. CPTSD can be emotionally dysregulated, but that's a different thing. Abel says, separating message from messenger. I tend to like a good messenger. Good messages are ubiquitous. People with good character, not as much. Ideally, it'd be a good messenger, but here's the other thing. Like, the reason I say separate the message from the messenger is because everyone is flawed to an extent. The only variable is to how much. So, keeping that in mind, what's your line for no longer listening to somebody anymore. Everyone's allowed to have a line wherever they want. But even if someone's a jerk, like, it doesn't mean to me that what they say is wrong. So look at Teal Swan, for example. A lot of people don't like her. Some people will say, oh, she's cluster B. Maybe she is. I don't know. She probably has some cluster B tendencies, but I don't know enough about her to say. But the knowledge that she shares, a lot of it I do really like. A lot of that I do like. Let's see. That's why I try to comment on all your videos, Jared. It's to get your message across. Yes, you do. And I see them. Awareness is your best defense. Yes, I think a lot of people have had narcissistic fleas, Jolly. Yes, everyone's flawed, more than 50% flawed. Well, and then it comes down to what is 50%. That would all depend. So, and that's the other part about it. So I was saying before, the social media algorithm is just like a narcissist. And that's also why the people that rise to the top, so many of them are narcissistic. Not all of them, but so many of them are, because the algorithm also rewards it. So social media in general is steroids for narcissism, but the algo also rewards the more narcissistic behavior. So it's a double whammy, if you ask me. So most of the big people, not all of them are full-blown narcissists, but most of them have developed an ego. I think, how could you not? If you have millions of followers on Facebook, I think it's just a natural human thing at that point. Like, it's going to boost you a little bit. The same as if you're a celebrity. I think the only way to combat that would be to not look at it, to not even involve yourself with it, just to try to distance yourself so you wouldn't get that ego inflation. And some people are better at stopping that than others. Some people don't. I think they like it. They like the ego inflation, so they lean in. Other people, I think they're more aware of the dangers, and so they try to lean back and say, you know what? I'm a little worried about this. I'm going to try to take care. Dark humor. Nothing wrong with some dark humor, Cat. Do you think that there is a right moment in life to be in a romantic relationship? When would be? You trust your gut on that, Angela. I think when we become the right person or the best version of ourselves, we're most likely to meet someone at their best. Which social media platform do you think is the most toxic? That's a good question. The most toxic. Probably X, Facebook. Yeah, X and Facebook. Followed closely by Instagram and TikTok. YouTube, it just depends, because like I said, it's so siloed that it's hard to tell. But in those more community-driven social media platforms, they can get really toxic, whether it's Facebook, X. X is out of control. I don't know much about Blue Sky. That might be toxic too, for all I know. And then TikTok, it depends. It really depends. Angela has love on her mind. Yes, she does. I like that phrase, ego inflation, because that's what it is. And again, someone who doesn't have a personality disorder can also have ego inflation. Doesn't mean they have a personality disorder. I mean, in terms of the personality disorder, you're supposed to have 5 of the 9 traits of narcissism. But I think the operating system is a little bit different. The operating system is not about having 5 of the 9 traits. It's, no, you think you are grandiose and superior. Those traits might come out covertly, but you still think you're grandiose and superior. You have impaired empathy. You feel entitled to special treatment, and you exploit others. And so that's the core. That's the core of the operating system. And it's all about image. And this comes off as being all about control. Now, when you diagnose someone via behaviors, and that's what Christian and I have talked about, that's not necessarily the best metric. And he says that's why you can think borderline and narcissism can be comorbid, but he thinks a borderline operating system cannot coexist with a narcissistic operating system. And I get exactly why he says that. I totally get it. So, Kat, I don't think social media ruins relationships. I think it is used as a tool to ruin relationships. That's what I think. I think somebody who wants to cheat, somebody who wants to be unfaithful, they're going to use social media as a tool to do those things. It would just be more difficult for them without social media. But we live in a world now where there is social media, and that's it. Social media is here. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future, if you ask me. Jolly, Angela, you'll feel it in your tummy when the right one comes along. I agree with that, Jolly. Angela says, I like your comment, Ellie, but I was asking about the right age or moment in time. Some people are never ready for love. Bad Company says that. Ready for love. I wish there was an app to meet fellow people who aren't on social media. Well, that's going to be tough. You might be able to find that in a church or some sort of spiritual setting, maybe. Also to note, Marcella from Beyond the Bruise, I'm going to invite her on tomorrow night. I'm thinking about doing a live with her like I did with Kelly, because I've already interviewed her twice without the live audience. So we'll come on here, whatever you want me to ask with Marcella. Good, Kat. I knew you would. Are you ready for love? And Bad Company. What would you all want me to talk to Marcella about tomorrow? She's going to talk about the push-pull dynamic a little bit. Might talk about narcissists' 10 biggest weaknesses. Might get into the autism and ADHD topic. And I'll tell you, you all saw my interview with Kelly, and I did not realize how controversial some of those clips would be when I posted them to Facebook. Holy mackerel. When Kelly said that one of her rules of thumb would be a narcissistic person is not going to handle no well, and an autistic person should be able to handle no a little bit better without being antagonistic, combative, or hostile. Oh my goodness, they lost their minds because they said, no, an autistic person could have a meltdown. They could have pathological demand avoidance. They could have rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And they can lash out from emotional dysregulation. The only difference is intent. It's like, I don't even like that distinction very much because it is still a problematic behavior to me. And for some people that are more severely autistic, it is more understandable, of course. This conversation requires nuance. But if one of your behaviors looks so similar to a narcissist that you can't even tell them apart, to me, that's a problem. And you should try to work on that. Now, do any of you think that's a controversial thing to say? On Facebook, let me tell you, that was an extremely controversial thing to say. And they said I was and I quote, I was called an ableist twat. And they called me, I lack empathy because I said that. It's like, but no, I understand an autistic person can have a meltdown, but it's usually not going to be the antagonistic, combative, and hostile version of a narcissistic person's disregard for others' boundaries and their disrespect for others. But that was the end of the world to say that. And I think if you're aware that you can have a meltdown, you're then also aware and able to be able to try to work on how you respond. To me, that's not asking too much, but to them, it's being ableist. And to them, they're like, you're not giving them a free, because it comes off to me like they want to be treated differently because they have autism. I have autism, and I don't want people to think of me any differently. I want to hold myself to a higher standard. But some of these people seem to want to hold themselves to the standard of the most severely autistic person. And I just don't know how helpful that is. How is that helpful? How is it helpful to want to be held to the standard of the most severely autistic person? I don't know. Let's see. They can lash out, but they're still responsible to learn to control their emotions as best they can. And having a meltdown doesn't mean autistics can't apologize. Yep, I would agree with that. Very interesting. People can disagree, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. I find the contrasting narcissism with autism bizarre. Are they similar at all? Well, some of them will think it is because they'll say when someone has rejection sensitivity dysphoria or pathological demand avoidance. Now, those terms, by the way, they're not really in the DSM as far as I know. They might have just been things that people with autism and ADHD have kind of created themselves. So take that for what it's worth, too. But here's the other thing: a lot of narcissistic people, they'll claim to be autistic, they'll claim to have ADHD, and they'll shout that they have pathological demand avoidance and rejection sensitivity dysphoria, but they're using it to me as an excuse for their problematic behaviors. And to me, that's a problem to do that. Like, if you truly do have pathological demand avoidance or rejection sensitivity dysphoria, the difference between you and a narcissist would be you can acknowledge you have those things and then try to work on them. And you might not do it perfectly, but you can acknowledge you are trying. That's what a narcissistic person won't do. So to me, that's why the distinction should be made. Like, it's a problematic behavior if you look exactly like a narcissist, just period. Now, if you look exactly like a narcissist, is it always narcissism? Perhaps not. But I think many times it is just a narcissistic person that's either comorbid with autism or ADHD, and they're just using it as an excuse, or they're just narcissistic and they're acting like they're autistic or ADHD, but they're really not. So, and again, what it is, each individual situation is going to be a little bit different with that. Yes, that's why I say they're both neurodivergent, whether it's AUDHD, autism, or ADHD. The real problem in real life or social media is superficial people who aren't interested in deep relationships. Well, that happens too. Some people are trying to say narcissism is neurodivergence, but I don't necessarily agree with that. Yes, narcissistic people will use anything that makes their condition seem out of their control. Yes. Now I agree with that. And that's why I get a little hesitant when I see people trying to use those terms, pathological demand avoidance and rejection sensitivity dysphoria, as a get out of jail free card. It just rubs me the wrong way because I don't think behaviors that look exactly like a narcissist behaviors, even if it's from emotional dysregulation and not power control, managing their image, narcissistic supply, or avoiding accountability like it is with a narcissist, that still doesn't make it okay. Like, that's why the intent differentiating factor, I don't take as much stock in that. Yes, there should be an intent difference, but to me, it's still a problem anyway. If your behaviors look that similar to a narcissist, that's a problem. And again, though, this got me in a lot of trouble. I got in a lot of trouble on Facebook because of that. Now, Kat, you probably have an interesting perspective on this because of your boyfriend, your ex-boyfriend, I should say. My mom helped my autistic brother talk when he stopped. She always encouraged him to adopt as best he could. It's not good to infantilize autistic folk. It enables and can stunt their growth. I 100% agree with that, Kat. And that's a good way to put it. And that's exactly what I said too. Because when they do that, and they're like, nope, an autistic person, they just can't help it but to have a meltdown. I just don't buy that. I think, can it be likely they have a meltdown sometimes? Sure. But is it impossible to prevent one? I don't want to say it's impossible. I don't think it's a fact that they always will have a meltdown. Like, I think that's a low expectation to set for them and infantilizes them as well. And you would want to rise up, right? You want to rise up and try to meet the best of your ability to meet your full potential. But too much of the other way, I think it can stunt their growth. Social media apps like Twitter or X, Instagram, and YouTube have very good and healthy content if you avoid narcissists and bad channels. Yeah, well, it's like the wolves, Angela. Which one will you feed, the good one or the bad one? Gabriel says, if you are autistic, you're very high functioning. Do you have experience with PDA? Who are the negative symptoms? What are the negative symptoms of your autism? Well, I take a lot of supplements that they would say is probably masking, because some of the worst ones were the severe anxiety, the lots of social isolation, not feeling a part of, the stimming, lots of cricking and cracking of the nose and things like that, hyperfixation on certain topics, um, like a lack of identity as well, hyper focusing on certain issues, having special interests. Some of my special interests were like dating and sex, which wasn't always the best. I'm high functioning autistic woman. I masked a great deal. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't take my supplements, it would be a completely different story. Manotropism. I don't know what that is. Manotropism. I don't know what that means. Um, but those things, like when I started learning all about autism, and there's this guy who wrote about neurotribes. I'm going to invite him on the channel too, because he knows way more about it than me. But for me, it made sense. And especially when I saw about how the autistic people that were diagnosed as such on Reddit, they would talk about certain drugs and what it would do for them. They would talk about other ways they would self-medicate. And that was all my story as well, because they said people with autism can struggle with this thing called phenibut. And I was like, yeah, I could totally see that, because it makes them a little more neurotypical for a little while. Because they say autism impacts the GABA system in the brain. So your GABA system's out of whack. Drugs like Xanax, Klonopin, alcohol, they all impact the GABA A receptors. Phenibut, that activates the GABA B receptors. The other day, I found many YouTube channels created by guys who sing songs like Adam Sandler in the movie The Wedding Singer. Going down rabbit hole, surprised you haven't heard of it? No, I have not heard of it. What is it? So a lot of autistics now wear headphones because the parents believe that that's what you should do with autistic children. My brother hated loud noises. It scared him. It didn't have them. He adapted. I mean, I didn't like crowds as a kid at all. I wasn't into loud noises, so I wasn't like the typical quote unquote dude in that way. But that was just me. Also, like easily startable. Like you can get startled easily. I mean, I could see with the ear muffs. I think Nick Foles, his child in the Super Bowl, after you could see the like the mutts on him. Headphones, yeah. I get overwhelmed at Walmart and shopping. I don't go around people for days after I go shopping. You get overstimulated. And then you need to go unwind on your own. Okay. I don't like talking to people in person. Yeah, it can be overwhelming. It can be overstimulating, right? Unless it's smaller groups. I always preferred smaller groups for that reason too, because bigger crowds would be overwhelming. And the more people there were, the louder music there was, it would just drain me. It would drain my social battery very quickly. And that's also why I liked using drugs and drinking back in the day, because I was able to tolerate social situations for longer. And if I wasn't, it just wasn't fun. I was always the kind of person that just preferred smaller gatherings. Yeah, I'm the same way, Jolly. Same way. But back to the other topic. So, social media is indeed steroids for narcissism, that's for sure. And it's not going to create a personality disorder, but I think what it will do is it will make narcissists who are already narcissists worse. It will make people that maybe have some narcissistic tendencies. It'll make them look worse too. And overall, what gets rewarded, what gets encouraged is going to continue. It's just a fact of life. And as long as the social media algorithm rewards narcissistic tendencies, I don't see a reason why this changes ever. How would it change unless the algorithm changes? The algorithm, honestly, is the social media god. And every platform has its own algorithm, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Each one has its own algorithm. And then, with that being the case, everyone has to obey the algorithm because if they don't, they're not going to get any attention. And if you're running a business on these platforms, then that's it. You're dead. Your business is dead. So everyone that's a creator is a slave to the algorithm to an extent. You can try to break out of that rule, but I think the only people that could are the people that are so famous that it doesn't matter. So you can be Taylor Swift. It doesn't really matter what you do. People are going to find you because you're Taylor Swift. You're Ariana Grande. Doesn't matter what you do. People are going to find you. Jay-Z, doesn't matter. Elon Musk, well, then it depends, right? But if you're famous enough, people are going to find you. But for people like me, I am more algorithm dependent because some people know me. People know me on Facebook. People know me on Instagram, to a lesser extent, TikTok. But I have more, it seems like more of a solid base even on YouTube, even if it's smaller in number, because I have 190,000 people that follow me on Facebook. But are all of them active participating members? Not really, right? There's a smaller chunk, just like here, there's a smaller chunk. Their love of social media can also prevent them from focusing on the issues in their actual life. They refuse to address its attention and escapism. I mean, that's another good point there, Cap. So that's the other thing social media does. I already said that it can help people fabricate a sense of self. You can create an image for yourself. And social media, it is a version of fantasy. And back in the day, what was fantasy? Well, you could read a good fiction book, and that was your escape. That's why if you go to drug and alcohol rehab, or excuse me, love addict rehab, if you go there, you're not allowed to read fiction books because it contributes to the fantasy. So social media can definitely be a version of that, and it can be a version of escapism. And it's just a mindless thing that a lot of people do. People who don't want to think, oh, just scroll Facebook. Oh, don't want to think, scroll TikTok. Before you know it, an hour goes by. And that's the thing. Social media has made it so that it is so much harder to focus now. Try reading a book. There's something about the light from a screen that makes it easier to read for longer for some reason. But when the book doesn't have that glow, now it's tough. It's tough to focus. But I still try to enjoy a good fiction book and nonfiction book, and I enjoy reading a book in my hand. I don't want to read just through a screen all the time. I already do that too much as it is, because with all the social media posting that I do, this is my job. And I'm just on it too much already, but it feels like you have to be because that's how you get coaching clients. That's how you get paid from YouTube and Facebook, etc. It's just, there's no end to it. The algorithm always sends me good content because I block bad channels and accounts. I'm glad not to be blocked then, Angela. And then I would say it is like a social video game. I recommend you to only watch positive content. Ellie, you should read And the Mountains Echoed by Khalid Hosseini. He's a good fiction book writer. And I think a good fiction book writer is definitely priceless. That's for sure. Gabriel says the nice thing about social media is that we have more input than reading a book. Reading a book is more passive and doesn't require our input. I read books daily. I mean, it's different. All right, so book reading is an isolated thing. Now you can share your knowledge that you get from a book, but social media is more connected than reading a book. Now there's a different version of connection you get from reading a book. You maybe get connected to yourself and maybe your thoughts and your internal like operating system and your spirit. Social media will be different. Love anything by John Grisham? I haven't read much John Grisham. What is his subject? He's an Afghan author, I believe. I think he came from Afghanistan. So he writes a lot about that area. And he talks about the issues of the area. So it's hard to describe, though. It's hard to describe. Balu, welcome. I also think people are incentivized to leave mean comments to get more likes. Yeah. I mean, comments help. Even hate comments help a channel. Hate comments help a post, no matter what it is. People don't think it, but it does. If you're a Facebook creator, you get hate comments every time you post, you're doing good. The only time that's not true is if you get so many people to hate you that they block you and now they never see your content again. That would be the only thing that would hurt them. So if you really want to show your displeasure on social media, don't tell them. You don't get angry about it in the comments. And again, there's a fine line with this because sometimes if misinformation is being spread, sure, people should address it. But after that, it's like you address it and block them because that's the only thing that's going to get to them. Blocking and ignoring. That's the only way. There's no other way. But that's just like a narcissist, right? If the social media algorithm is like a narcissist, blocking and ignoring, that's the only way to deal with it. There are good people on social media, but it's hard to find deep relationships similar to real life. Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you go. So you can go to, like, I think Reddit can be a very unique place in the fact that you can get very specific about your interests. And there's a subreddit for every single interest you could ever think of. So it's possible to connect to people. Not everyone's going to be willing to connect, but it's there. It's there. But all right. So the other announcements. Marcella from Beyond the Bruise is tomorrow night. Anything you want me to ask her, let me know. Perhaps let me know in the comment section of this video here too. Like the video while you're still here as well. Christian, I'm interviewing Christian on Friday. I'm going to be a guest on a couple other shows coming up. I'll let you know when. But Claire Oden invited me on her show. Those of you who know Claire, we haven't set a date for that yet. There's another person that just interviewed Richard Grannon, and my other friend Gwen, who's going to come on the show here too. He invited me to do something with him. Coach, his name is Muhammad, but his Instagram is Coach Kamar. So we'll see him about that. Then there was another woman from Eastern Europe that invited me. We'll have to see when that takes place. And the Game Exposed was supposed to come on here. She postponed until the 16th. And then I posted something about autism, about how if someone acts out and lashes out, I don't care if it's narcissism, autism, ADHD, or borderline, it's a problem. Well, the Game Exposed did not like that very much. And she says, I disagree because I have 2 autistic children. One's high functioning and one's not. And it's much different. And then lo and behold, after that, she was like, oh, by the way, Jared, I can't come on your show next week because there's a coaching client. I was like, oh, but what do you want to bet? She doesn't really like me anymore because she disagreed with me about the autism. So we'll see, though. I'm going to keep the door open. The door is open for her, but I don't think she's interested anymore, which is disappointing to me, honestly, because, and this is for people pleasers out there too. There's people that are people pleasers. They're nervous to disagree. And that fear is not unwarranted because there are a fair amount of people where if you're not a people pleaser, they might abandon you. They might not like you anymore. They might start hating you. It's all true. But that's where you would say anyone who does that, they're not really meant for you anyway. So when you speak your truth, you speak your mind, you find the people that are supposed to be your tribe. Not everyone's going to be your tribe. So when Grace was on the show last week or whenever that was, yeah, certainly not everyone is her tribe, but she's opened up about what her beliefs are, and now she's going to find more of her tribe. So I opened up about my thoughts on the narcissism, autism, and ADHD. And there are certain people that just don't like that. And even minor disagreements can kind of cost you friendships and cost you opportunities. And in the business world, you have to pick and choose. Like, which hill do you want to really die on here? Like, if you want to make your opinions known on social media, you never know who's going to get offended by it. You just don't know. And I'll tell you what, the only people who don't offend anybody are the ones that don't speak their mind. If you speak your mind without following a herd, eventually you're going to offend some people. It just is. If you think for yourself, you're going to offend people. So George will be disappointed that that's happened with the game exposed. She has had some issues with Danish, or whatever his name is. Oh, she did? Well, tell me about that, Kat, before I rock and roll here. I agree, Jolly. Like, I'm the kind of person, I can talk to anybody. Now, I dislike it if someone's going to be antagonistic and combative in how they disagree, and that might be an unproductive disagreement. But I'm willing to speak to anybody, anyone. I can talk to anybody about anything, but not everyone can. And it's unfortunate. That's just like the part of me that is just missing, because in other people, they get offended so easily. They hear something about autism they don't like, they get furious. They hear something about ADHD they don't like, they're furious. But I just don't have that part in me. So I can talk about any of that, and it just doesn't bother me. Kat says she was apparently exposing him for being a fraud, but he did a reaction video stating the truth, shooting down her claims. Interesting. So who was in the right and who was in the wrong, Kat? Was Dinesh right or was she? Danish copies off her content? He might. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to take a look at it. And then again, in the narcissism space here, there certainly is a lot of overlap. I mean, that can't be denied at this point. Many people are talking about similar things, but I try to pride myself in being unique. I want to talk about things that only I'm talking about, and I try to do it from my own perspective. And sometimes it doesn't help my exposure, I'll say that. But it's important to me to be me and unique and to have integrity and character. So that's what I try to do. Yes, Kat, I am learning that. Autism community can be very hostile, and I don't like it one bit. And to me, it's disappointing. I've been disappointed in the autistic community because there's just no emotional safety there. Like, the emotional safety is zero, and they just jump for your neck instantly. They hear one thing they don't like, they try to rip your head off. I'm like, dude, you guys got to calm down. Like, goddamn. I've always felt he was genuine, but my radar is clearly off. I mean, Dinesh, here's what I think about Dinesh. Like, he's running a business, right? I think sometimes he panders. He's someone that says that all narcissists are gay, for example. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's seeing it in black and white. Are there a fair amount of narcissists that are gay? Sure. Are there a fair amount that are bi? Sure. But are they all gay? No, I don't think they're all gay. Yes, some people in the autistic community can be hostile in black and white. Absolutely, Jolly. Like I said, when I was talking to Kelly, I had no idea that part of it was going to make them so angry, but it did. A big part of them that got very angry. Yaz calls him out constantly. Yeah, she might. Like I said, I don't know much about her, but she got mad. I think she didn't say she got mad at me. I just don't necessarily think it's a coincidence that she disagreed with that post. And then it was like the next day, oh, by the way, I can't come on your show. I was like, I don't know. I don't believe in coincidence. It might have, because here's the thing. If you really come on, you can reschedule and have another time. But she didn't. But it's a lesson too, right? You never know if you make some controversial claims and me saying I don't care about the labels if someone's going to lash out and be abusive. Apparently, that's a controversial claim because for a lot of people that are autistic, they want to be held to a different standard, apparently. They want more of a pass or more understanding, and they want you to really focus on the intent as opposed to the labels. It's like, I mean, what world are you living in here? Do you want to live in the adult world or do you want to live in the developmentally disabled world? Because if someone's severely disabled, I mean, that's unfortunately where they are. They're in the severely disabled world. I mean, it's not their fault, but that's just how it is for some people. But those who are able to be higher functioning, I think they should be striving for that. Yes, calls them out constantly. I don't think they're all gay, but attention is attention. Sure. Yes, I knew, George, you'd be upset with that. I was disappointed with that too, honestly. Hey, when you keep it real, some people don't like that. Some people don't like it. And again, I'm not guaranteeing you that's what it was. I just don't think it was a coincidence. That's all. Do you think sex addicts are narcissists? Narcissistic, most likely. And some probably have the full blown disorder too. But like an addiction, period, can mimic narcissism. Is every addict a full blown narcissist? No. I think some addicts can have CPTSD. Some addicts are self-medicating anxiety, depression, bipolar. Some are self-medicating ADHD, autism, and then some have personality disorders, borderline, narcissism, etc. So the addiction world is very interesting in the fact that they give them one solution in the 12-step program. And it does seem to help a lot of people if they work it. And that's the big thing. They don't all work it. I don't know who Yaz is. What's her full name? She's the Game Exposed on YouTube and Instagram. So the wizard has let his channel down by speaking out against lashing out autistic people and their emotional dysregulation. Can't do that. It makes people upset. And when you make people upset, you might lose friendships and opportunities. Just the way it is. Disappointing. But like I said, it's not over though. It's not over because give it some time. I might reach out to her again, but she didn't offer a reschedule date. The first time she rescheduled, she did. So that was fine. But this time she didn't, which makes me think, yeah, she just doesn't want to come on anymore. Kat says, I can't tell if my autistic ex has full-blown MPD or as a child he learned to mask his dad's MPD personality. And you know what I say to that, Kat? If he was abusive and disrespecting you, it doesn't matter. And that will make the autistic people furious, at least the ones that were mad at me. But it doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. And they're going to say, oh yeah, I mean, I'm not saying her content is wrong or anything like that. Not at all. For all I know, her stuff is great. And I was going to review it more closer to the day. So I had some things to talk about with her. But no, abuse is abuse. People want to focus on intent, but it's like, no, the impact. Impact is what matters. And if someone's autistic and not narcissistic, they're going to be able to collaborate. They're going to be able to come together with you. And you're going to be able to have that moment of connection after a fight. With a narcissistic person, that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen because they don't want to collaborate. They want to create more problems and they just want to be in control and get their way. Now, they'll say an autistic person, they want to control their environment. So some of that can appear similar. But even so, like there's still going to be differences. I know what they are because I know what to look for. But it can be difficult to articulate sometimes, even for me. But what I do say to people is, Be very careful with people that really want to emphasize their pathological demand avoidance or their rejection sensitivity dysphoria as a reason why they're behaving ridiculously. You want to watch out for that. I don't think that's a good thing. Can it happen? Can it truly be just an innocent autistic person? Sometimes. Sometimes. But to me, it's also just as likely that it's a narcissistic person claiming to be autistic, claiming to be ADHD, and they're just pretending so they can avoid accountability. Just as likely, if you ask me. But anyway, I think that's about good here. We're coming up on the Cinderella hour. George, let me know what you want me to talk to Marcella about. We got some things. We'll come on here 7:30 tomorrow. Be early. Early compared to our vampire streams. It's going to be a little earlier. So this is your heads up. I'll post it in the stream. 7:30. 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Marcella. I saw a clip the other day saying a good relationship is a competition of who can treat who better. Ah, that's a good way to put it. I've never heard that before, Kat. But I could see that. I could see that. That's correct, Jolly. Eastern Standard Time. So with that, I will bid you adieu. I hope to see you there, Ellie. Marcella will be here. We'll probably get into some relationships. We'll probably get into some narcissism, some push-pull, some dating, some narcissist biggest weaknesses, maybe even some autism and ADHD stuff, maybe some drama in the community. We'll have to see. But anyway, good night, good fight. Good fight, good night, as they say. Have a good one, everybody. So George, Ellie, Kat, Jolly, Gabriel, everyone else who is here. All right. So long.